Welcome back. In part one of our conversation with the author, we discussed some of the famous people who have made their name in the Hudson River Valley. Well, in the second part, we talk about some of the famous places like Sing Sing, West Point, and so much more that have come to define this region. I was also captured geographically. How much has changed. There was pictures of agriculture in the 1900s in New Rochelle, which nobody would imagine right now. And conversely, Newburgh, historically how significant it was from George Washington throughout. If people transported in time 100 years later and saw Newburgh today, they'd lose their minds. So much has changed in terms of cities rising up, falling down, obviously manufacturing coming and going, and even the Hudson Valley, we were talking before we taped, the ideas of cities like Beacon or Rhinebeck or whatever being destination spots like they are now. So much has changed in a century's time, hasn't it?
Isn't it amazing?
It is.
It really is. Although, you know, and it hasn't all been bad or good. I mean, the waterfront of Newburgh is a beautiful little boutonniere on the Hudson River these days. And New Rochelle, I suspect, has a few farms yet. There are probably a few hundred in Westchester County. And even without the farms, the rural character is here. And when I was driving down through Westchester County, I got off the main roads in order just to enjoy that. And that's one of the characteristics of the valley. It's just so beautiful. And it has to do with the agricultural look to the land. The rise of industry changed the river and led the sloop captains, for example, to comment how, yes, it was still the Rhine of America, but now it was the Rhine with smokestacks and industries every mile, instead of just the beauty of the castles and the land itself. And that has changed again, thanks to the rise of environmentalism and heritage stewardship in the last 60 years. And New York is moving towards a cleaner, greener world.
You identify so many of the cultural moments and people, so it's impossible to go through even a fraction, but a few jumped out, and that is, you mentioned Poe, but Woodstock. You know, if I fast forward very late into the latter part, obviously, of the 20th century, people like, you know, forget just the Guthries here, but also so many, the folk movement born in many ways there, or at least certainly got their footsteps. And so many people from both the entertainment and the cultural world called New York home. And that played a big part in the region's development too.
Yes, and just like the captains of industry, they turned to the northern area, to the Hudson Valley, to make their second homes or their permanent homes as well, because that was so close to their aesthetic and their own special interests. You mentioned among folk singers, well, we lost a great one in Pete Seeger.
Sure.
Probably the greatest American folk singer.
And so dedicated to the Valley. For folks who don't know his commitment with Clearwater and so many groups here,
yes,
who kept a portion of our past, but also preserving the future environmentally. Bob Dylan, obviously, had fingerprints as well. And then there were the moments from the Rosenbergs at Sing Sing. And it's funny, we do work with Sing Sing right now, education behind bars, but nonetheless, that was obviously huge. And you even remark here, people remember it maybe a little different than reality. If you want to get a fishing license, you had to do a pledge of allegiance to the country, an oath of that you weren't a Red, if you would, just to get a fishing license.
Yes, that was true. That was prevalent in the first Red Scare around 1920, and then that was revived again. Well, of course, the country has to protect itself. After 9/11, the roadways through the Shokan Reservoir and the Croton District were closed, but gradually these restrictions were released, and we're back to an appreciation of it. The famous people or the talented people who came here joined with the rest of the community, really, and became part of it. Pete Seeger was like that. Natalie Merchant is like that today. And all through our history, we've had instances like that occur. Edith Wharton, although kind of a blue blood from the Berkshires, loved to drive her automobile down to Hudson or down to the river, especially after they invented the rear view mirror. That was a big attraction for her. And she would bring Henry James along, who was the most disdainful person you can imagine when it came to the hoi polloi, or the common people who might show up at Saratoga Springs, where he might be as well. An amazing array of people, talented and otherwise, who share the valley, but also I think share an appreciation of the beauty of it.
And one of the things you get throughout this book also is, and I'll just put it in personal terms, I remember one weekend where I was covering an event at West Point, which if people haven't been to, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's one of the most stunning, not just visual places, but what it stands for, and you even take us a tour if you go into the cemetery there. I mean, if you want a definition of American history and of sacrifice. And then that next day, I went to go cover the Tawana Brawley trial, which you cover as well here. And just to show the varied elements of just how many complexities there are in this Hudson Valley and how much it's changed over time, but still always having a little bit of a yin and a yang of both the suburban, obviously, the rural, but also the metropolitan to it. And I think you do an amazing job. In fact, I could spend another half an hour on this with you as well, Vernon. But again, this is the second volume, and this one takes us from the Civil War to modern times. Again, the history of the Hudson River Valley, and it's by Vernon Benjamin. Vernon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job. I appreciate it.
Appreciate being here.
And coming up next, we'll take a look at some local headlines. Please stay with us.